Welcome, I'm Helen from Nurture Yoga and Meditation. Today I will be taking you through some modifications and a short practice for yoga in pregnancy if you're experiencing either placenta previa or vulva varicosities. With placenta previa you may have a complete or just a partial covering of your cervix with the placenta, and the risk when you're participating in physical activities is that there is some shearing of the uterine wall against the placenta. We really don't want it to become detached obviously, but it can also cause a bit of pressure or damage in certain positions that you take, which may result in bleeding and discomfort for you. Vulva varicosities occur in about 1 in 10 women in Australia who are pregnant, and for some reason it isn't spoken about. But it is quite common, and it can be very uncomfortable to take positions that put a lot of pressure down into the vulva, into the vagina and the cervix. So for all of the modifications today, what we are looking to avoid is pressure in the cervix, pressure against the pelvic floor. If you have placenta previa, it's avoiding that pressure against the placenta itself. And so for a lot of the poses that would typically take a bit more weight into that area, if you think of it being just at the base of the uterus, then it can be quite useful to use a chair or other supports. So our bit of a practice today, we'll be using a chair if you've got one handy. Bolsters are also great. If you don't have bolsters, you can substitute with piles of blankets, piles of pillows off the bed, whatever you have available for you. If you are experiencing vulva varicosities, you're not as limited, but you may find it more comfortable to do things that don't put a lot of pressure, again, down into the vulva and the vagina. The other thing to keep in mind if you do have placenta previa is that we don't really want to do many actions that open the pelvis too wide, because again, that can really pull the muscles of the uterus, can affect the positioning of the cervix and the placenta. So you may be going to classes and your pregnancy yoga teacher may be talking about pubic symphysis pain, because that's a lot more common in women who are pregnant. And the precautions for that are not to take the legs particularly wide, because we don't want to be yanking on the pelvis. Use those precautions if you have placenta previa. So typically we'll be using the legs as levers, particularly the thigh bones as levers to open the pelvis in pregnancy. It releases tension from there, helps prepare the body for birth. But if you do have placenta previa, we really want to keep those same precautions as we do for PSP, which is keeping the legs pretty much hips width, perhaps a little bit wider if that's comfortable for you, but certainly not going for those wide openings that pull the pelvis open. So if you're practicing yoga in pregnancy, my advice would be to find someone who specialises in yoga for pregnancy, who has that experience and that training. And if you have any concerns at all, please ensure that you are speaking with your care providers as well. So let's begin. One that I want to talk about is some seated poses. So one of the common seated poses that you will come across in yoga for pregnancy is butterfly, and the reason for that is it's fantastic for the pelvis. It also really helps with our spinal alignment. The issue with butterfly is we're taking the legs wide, and if we're doing it unsupported, you can get a lot of pressure down against the cervix and the pelvic floor. So number one thing is to elevate hips on a folded blanket or a cushion. And this can just help with a bit of pelvic realignment. And rather than taking feet together close to the body, where I've now got my legs out quite away from the pelvis at that angle, I'm just going to slide my feet away. I'm still getting an opening here through the groin, which is lovely, but I'm not getting that yanking on the front of the pelvis or that opening through the front of the pelvis. The other option, of course, is to just take a comfortable cross-legged position or a kneeling position. Similarly, if you're practicing any of the pigeon poses, which are fantastic in pregnancy for relieving and preventing sciatica, you again won't want to be taking the legs as wide. So if you're doing a seated pigeon, then you may be looking at crossing the knee above the knee below, rather than having the ankle on top of the knee, which is what you'll generally be advised to be taking that pose. So you may want the middle of the calf or the knee on top, and then you can bring the other leg in. You can still get a bit of an opening through the gluteal muscle in particular here, which is what will support you with sciatica, but you don't get that pulling on the front of the pelvis. So any of the pigeon variations that you come into, you may be doing it semi-reclined, perhaps on a bolster or just on the hands. Again, just have the middle of the calf or the knee over it so you don't have as much of an opening there. You can still draw the toes back towards the knee, move the knee away from the body. If you're coming into an upright pigeon in pregnancy and in general, because it's more comfortable, certainly do it over a bolster or a pile of pillows to give yourself a bit more height. And rather than taking the leg wide here to come down into the pigeon pose, it may be more comfortable for you again to draw that leg in. And if that is again a bit too much pressure, then the option is to fold the heel underneath the bottom, come down onto the knee, slide that back leg away, and if you're getting pressure here down in the pelvic floor and around the cervix and the vulva, then support the extended leg on a folded blanket. I've still got a really nice opening through my hip flexor, but again, I don't have that opening as much through the front of the pelvis, and I've taken the weight off the cervix here. So that's what you might want to think of. They're probably the main seated poses that you'll come across that you'll want to modify. Working with the pelvic floor, still really important if you've got vulva varicosities or placenta previa, but you may not want to move as much into the transverse abdominis exercises if you've got placenta previa. So I'll show you what I mean by that. You may be in an all fours position, working with some cat-cows, working with engaging and releasing the pelvic floor, a little bit of a calf stretch, and then the teacher may be prompting you to raise that leg, engage the lower abdominals, draw the hip points in towards each other. This is starting to work our TBAs. If that's feeling too strong, keep the leg lowered and keep working with pelvic floor exercises. So speak to your teacher about it, but anything where you're starting to work the TBAs strongly, then I'd certainly advise that you just stay with pelvic floor exercises if you have placenta previa. The main poses that you would like to modify with vulva varicosities and placenta previa are your lunging style poses and your warrior poses. And the reason for this is that we have more pressure there at the base of the uterus. So the absolutely best way to do it is on a chair. I'm going to take you through a chair yoga practice. And you may like to do things like squats either on an exercise ball or on a couple of bolsters. So this is what we advise for women once they're over 35 weeks anyway, so take this precaution. So you can grab a couple of bolsters or an exercise ball. You can use blocks as well. And then you can just come into your squat this way. Now again, placenta previa, really don't want the knees too much wider than the hips, so this may be your squat. I've still got a nice movement of the tailbone out behind to open up the pelvis. I can still feel that alignment of the spine. I've still got release of the muscles, tendons, ligaments around the base. And if you don't have placenta previa and you're doing this because of vulva varicosities, then certainly you can take those legs wide and come into that squatting position as to what it is for your body. But seeing that I'm supported now, I don't have the pressure of gravity and my upper body through my cervix, the lower uterus, my vagina, etc. So one option. Other option is that you can be doing it on blocks. Again, it's taking the weight out of it, fully supported in this position. Now lunges, to begin with, low lunges, just be guided, again, by your level of comfort. But generally, we call this a bit of a proposal lunge. So you can see that my front knee is over my ankle and my back hip is over my knee, rather than coming forward into a bit more of an extended lunge where my front hip is now beyond that knee. The reason being that if I come forward into this, again, I've got that pulling on the pelvis and I've actually got a lot more pressure sitting down against the base of my uterus. So if I come up, I don't have as much pressure here, I'm not yanking on the pelvis, I can still draw the outer hips in to strengthen here, little engagement of the pelvic floor, and do what the rest of the class are doing with their lunges. I can still come backwards and forwards, but just a couple of centimetres, not a big movement here. High lunges and warriors, my best advice would be to use a chair. And I certainly did this in my second pregnancy when I was getting towards the end with the discomfort that I had. And you can do your low lunge on this as well. So for a low lunge, just set yourself up so that the bent leg is towards the front of the chair. And you can put your back leg rested on a block or a pile of books or a pile of cushions to come into, it's a little bit of fiddling to set up, to come into a low lunge here, or if my leg's long enough, I can probably actually reach the floor on this chair. So, low lunge position, arm movements, open twist, whatever it is I need to be doing. High lunge, again, you've just got the bent leg, hip, buttock, top of the thigh on the floor, knee over ankle at the front, leg comes out behind as far as is comfortable. Again, try not to pull on the pelvis, so we're really looking for the hip points to be pointing forward. Back leg can be extended. I'm getting a bit of an opening now through the calf muscle, which is great for those cramps at night. And again, arms are free to do what they want or don't have pressure down here. If you're coming into warrior poses, your bent leg position is the same, but the back leg is now going to change so that you've got your heel out and your toes in. The height of this chair is actually not right for me, so I'm going to bring it up a bit. That's a bit better. So heel out, toes in. And again, really looking for alignment of the pelvis forward if you're in warrior 1, and the chest to the long edge of the mat if you're in warrior 2. So warrior 1, maybe walk your bent leg towards the back of the chair a little so you can draw the hips round to the front. Warrior 2, it may come forward towards the other edge of the mat. So any of your warrior stuff, including your side angle pose, if you're coming into a trikonasana, a triangle, you can still move that leg forward out the front. Beautiful opening here through the front of the body. You've got to have taken that weight away from the base of the uterus, away from the cervix, away from the vagina and vulva. So now I don't have that risk with placenta previa and vulva varicosities. They're probably the main ones. Again, if your teacher's talking about modifications for PSP and you've got placenta previa, then do the PSP modifications as well. But otherwise, just find someone who has really got your best intentions at heart, who's got the experience, and do listen to the intuition of your own body. Let's move into a little practice together that you may like to do if you have placenta previa or if you have vulva varicosities. Obviously, I can't see you, so please be guided by the wisdom and intuition of your body. If anything feels uncomfortable or not right, then don't do it. And we will be beginning on the floor today, just in a seated position. So take whatever seated position is comfortable for you. You may be cross-legged, you may have the legs out straight, or you may be kneeling perhaps over a bolster or some cushions or pillows. Bring the hands to wherever they lie comfortably, whether that's on your belly, your heart, in your lap. And just closing the eyes or lowering the gaze. And as we begin this practice, just starting to draw your awareness in. Noticing any sounds that are around you. Releasing that awareness of sounds. Noticing scents within the air. Tastes within the mouth. Noticing light filtering through the eyelids. Feeling the surface of the skin where the air touches it. Observing whether it's warm or cool. Feeling a sense of security and stability in the base of the body that's resting on the earth. Allowing the crown of the head to reach up towards the sky. The shoulders to be soft. Jaw relaxed and tongue heavy in the mouth. Counting 3 breaths here. Connecting with expansion and relaxation of the chest and the heart space. Making the commitment to be aware of your body and its needs throughout this practice. Be aware of your mind and its influence throughout this practice. Be aware of your breath as an expression of your energetic body throughout this practice. When you're ready, gently opening the eyes or bringing the gaze up, and we'll be beginning staying in this seated position with a few little hip rotations. So keeping these at a comfortable size as you exhale, coming forward, as you inhale, coming back. Starting to feel into the base of the body, around the hips and pelvis, and then reverse in that direction. Again, these are only very small, subtle movements. Good. Bring the hands to the floor on each side of the hips. Turn the left hand palm up. Inhale, stretch up through fingertips and crown of the head. Exhale, coming over towards the right. Opening here through the left ribs, waist. Left hip draws down as the left fingertips reach. Feeling that the ear is in line with the upper arm, so not dropping the head forward. Inhale up. Exhale, lower the left arm, turn the right hand palm up. Inhale, reaching tall. Exhale to the left. Ear in line with upper arm. Hip draws down. Right side of the body opens. Inhale up. Exhale, lower that arm. We're coming on to all fours. You may like to have a folded blanket underneath the knees. Knees under hips. Wrists underneath shoulders. Inhale, tailbone up behind, chest forward, chin up. Subtle movements here. Exhale, tuck the tail. Pushing up between the shoulder blades, chin to chest. Inhale, opening gently. Exhale, close. Making 3 more movements with your own breath. Feeling it start at the base of the spine, rippling up to the crown of the head. So it's a slow wave-like movement. Coming to a flat back, we're going to take the left leg out behind. Feel that you can push back into the heel if you're mainly feeling this stretch in the back of the knee, just a little softness in the knee here to take a stretch down into the calf. Push the back of the neck up towards the ceiling so that you've got length through the spine. Little engagement of the pelvic floor here, drawing in and up. 3 breaths. As you exhale, take that left knee back under the hip. If it's comfortable to do so, turn your wrist the other way so the fingers are pointing in towards the body, bringing a stretch to the inside of the wrists. And then take the right leg out behind. Toes are on the floor, pelvis is level, so the tendency is to roll off towards the extended leg. Feel that the pelvis is fairly well aligned here. And again, pushing into the heel to bring the stretch into the calf. Softness in the knee. Engagement of the pelvic floor, long neck and spine. 3 breaths. Good. Bring the hands back around, bring the knee back into the body. Toes together, widen the knees as far as is comfortable. Exhale, come into an extended child's pose. Now if it's not comfortable to have the head low here, then bring it onto a brick. Now the invitation is to come up onto the fingertips. Feel that you can pull the floor back towards you so that you engage the upper arm and chest. Inhale. Exhale, just walking the hands over towards the left. Right hip draws away. Fingertips keep drawing the floor back towards you. Inhale to center and exhale over to the right. Inhaling back to center. Coming back up to all fours. Knees come back onto hips. Inhale, raise the right arm open out towards the right. And then as you exhale, bring that right arm underneath the left, coming down onto the outside of the right arm and the head. If that's not comfortable to reach there, pop yourself up on a couple of pillows. But the stretch here, we're trying to keep up in the upper spine. If you're feeling yanking on the abdomen, then come up a little. If you want to increase that twist, then push into the left hand. Inhale to open. Exhale, right hand down. Inhale, open to the left. Exhale, left arm slides under right, coming to thread the needle. Same precautions here. Pressure into the right hand if you want to increase that twist a little. Inhale, come up and open to the left. Exhale, down. Moving into a supported squat. So you may like to use any of the options that I talked about in the beginning, a ball, a couple of bolsters, a block or a chair. As we're going to be moving into some chair poses, I will be doing this on a chair. So if you've got vulva varicosities and you're not worrying about the opening of the pelvis at the front and you don't have PSP, then you can take the toes and the knees out as far as is comfortable. Find length here through the spine. And then choose if you'd like to walk the body forward. You'll be limited here by baby. You may like to bring the arms to the insides of the legs so that you get a beautiful opening by pushing the arms against the insides of the knees, and then the insides of the knees push back against the arms, double action. If you've got placenta previa, then just keep the knees hips width or a little bit wider. Again, you can turn the toes out a little bit here. You won't be able to come forward as far because of belly, but you can still use that arm movement. Just don't push too hard against the insides of the legs because we don't really need that big opening through the pelvis. Focusing on length in the spine, so feeling that you've got a thread attached to the crown of the head that can draw up towards the sky. Softening the shoulders. 3 breaths here. Beautiful. As you finish that 3rd breath, turning to face the short edge of the mat, we're going to have the right leg on the chair. So have the right buttock and part of the thigh supported. Depending on the height of the chair, you may need something underneath the back knee to come into a lunging position. You can have the top of the back foot on the floor or the toes lifted, whatever's comfortable for your knee. Engage the pelvic floor. Feel that you can hug the outer hips in here. We can still strengthen the legs even though we're using the chair to support us. Inhale, raise the arms up. Then as you exhale, slide those shoulder blades down the back. Inhale up. Exhale, open the chest. Inhale. Exhale, open the chest. Good. Bring the right forearm onto the knee and then open into a twist if it's not comfortable to take that left arm up, keeping it on the hip. Exhale, coming back to center, walk your right buttock a little bit more onto the chair so it's supported. We're coming into a warrior 2 position, so the back leg comes out behind, the heel back, the toes in, and feel that you can really push down through the outer edge of that back foot. You're going to be opening the chest towards the long edge of the mat, so just fiddle around with your leg position to support that. Again, feeling that you don't have the pressure down here. If you do, then you may need a couple of more supports just to give you some more height. Inhale, bring the arms up to shoulder height, soften the shoulders, perhaps turning to look over the front hand. Check that the front knee isn't falling in or out, tracking over those middle toes. 2 breaths here. Feeling a lightness in the upper body as the base of the body supports you. On an exhalation, glide the right arm forward, bring the forearm above the knee, and then the left hand to the hip. Open the chest so the right ribs draw forward and up. You may like to look forward, down, or up. And choose to stay here, or on an inhalation, sweep that left arm down, forward, and into a diagonal with the back leg. Coming into a beautiful version of side angle that is suitable for vulva varicosities and placenta previa. Or if you just like to do chair yoga for the day. Next time you exhale, take the left arm behind and then feel that someone's holding the fingertips to inhale, bring you back up to your warrior 2. Exhale, lower the hands. Coming back into your version of squat. Length through the spine. Feeling the pelvis soften. Turning towards the left, coming into your version of low lunge, finding the right positioning for you. Front knee is over or behind the ankle, finding your foot position at the back. Inhale, arms up, pelvic floors engaged, outer hips hugging. Exhale, lower those elbows and shoulder blades. Inhale. Exhaling, open the collarbones. Drawing up, reaching tall. Exhale to come down. Good. Setting up for warrior 2 on the left side. Finding your back leg position. Outer edge of that foot comes down. Front leg is engaged. Knee tracking over middle toes. And then turning the chest towards the long edge of the mat. So just let the pelvis stay fairly stable here, moving as much or as little as it wants to, but not that real opening here, but really let the body turn and the chest open. And then turning to look over the left hand. Softening the shoulders, strength through the upper body. 3 breaths. As you exhale, coming forward over the front leg, forearm above the knee, right hand to hip, open the chest. Find your head position. Ears back in line with shoulders here. And then perhaps on an inhalation, sweeping that right arm down, forward, and overhead on that diagonal. Left ribs and chest draw forward and up. 2 breaths. Exhale, right arm comes back behind as you inhale. Little gentle drawing back up into your warrior 2. And exhale to lower the hands, turning back towards your squat. Release. Coming up to a standing position. We'll come into a safe balance for Placenta Previa and Vulva Varicosities, but if you do feel a lot of pressure, again, in the base of the uterus, against the cervix or the vulva, then leave this bit of the balance out. Otherwise, bring weight into the right leg, come onto the left toes. This might be where you stay today. Great to use the chair or wall here. If that's comfortable, bend that left heel in towards the buttock. If you can't reach it, use a strap or a tie or a belt. Bringing the knees towards alignment with each other. Keeping the pelvis facing forward. Choosing to stay here or perhaps raising that right arm. Or keeping it supported on the chair. Exhale, lower the arm, lower the foot, close the eyes or lower the gaze. Notice how left and right sides feel. Opening the eyes, bring weight into the left foot. Right foot might stay on the floor with the toes in contact with the floor. The heel coming up towards the buttock, using a strap or a belt if needed. That right elbow comes in towards the back of the body so that you've got an opening here through the collarbones. Length up through the spine, keeping the support of the chair or perhaps taking the left arm up. Softness in the standing knee here so that you're not pushing back into the ligaments, building strength. Exhale, lower the hand, lower the leg, and then just walk the feet backwards, releasing pressure off the pelvis and the lower back. Little rock here, little pelvic tilts. Head doesn't go any lower than the hips. Good. Coming back down to a seated position. Feet on the floor, knees up. Inhale, lengthen the spine. And as you exhale, just drop the knees down towards the left. Come up onto that left hip so that your entire pelvis is moving. Inhale up to center, exhale, drop to the right. Inhale to center, coming back to a seated position. Allowing our hands to rest where they're comfortable. Closing the eyes or lowering the gaze. The invitation being to come to any of the other breathing and relaxation practices that accompany our full classes. Otherwise, bringing one hand to the heart, one hand to baby. Practicing breath awareness on the inhalation, mentally repeating, I am breathing in. On the exhalation, I am breathing out. Counting backwards from 27 to 0. So I am breathing in 27. I am breathing out. I am breathing in 26. I am breathing out. If you lose that count, it's a good indication the mind has wandered, so starting back at 27. Similarly, if you reach 0, commencing back at 27 or closing your practice, I'll leave you here. Please continue